Hello everyone, welcome to the Chicago Club travel show and entertainment show. I'm Dorothy Picella and I'm your host for these shows, and we're delighted that you could join us. Did you know the Chicago Club is the largest club in the village with over 700 members? Did you know that we're over 40 years old? Did you know you don't have to be from Chicago to join the Chicago Club, even though I'm from Chicago? And did you know we're the friendly club? We really are. But there's a lot more to the Chicago Club than just travel. I know many of you enjoyed our shows every month, but there's a lot more to us than just travel, a lot more than a pretty face. We're having fun, and we absolutely do monthly events at Clubhouse 5. We have great musical entertainment acts that you would absolutely love. We have every now and then we add a comedian to make you laugh. So we're at Clubhouse 5 every month, the second Thursday at 7 p.m. And we welcome all, even non-members are welcome. And I'm sure you're going to enjoy our complimentary desserts, along with the GRF cash bar. But as many of you know, we travel. And the Chicago Club offers monthly day bus trips to all over Southern California. They're wildly popular, and we're quite famous for them. We have some coming attractions for all the events that we're going to be doing in Clubhouse 5. I think you're really going to like it. It's going to make you want to sing, it's going to make you want to laugh, and hopefully it will make you want to get on a bus. So sit back, get comfortable, and enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Bernie, your travel and event guide. My emails and our website shown below keep you informed of everything offered by the Chicago Club. This preview of coming attraction shows the highlights of our current entertainment and travel events.
Twist and shout. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. All day's night, and I've been working like a dog. It's been a hard day's night. I should be sleeping like a log. But when I get home to you, I find the things that you do will make me feel alright. You know I work all day to get your money, to buy your things, and it's worth it just to hear you say you're gonna give me everything. So I understood I'm home, 'cause when I get you alone, you know she loves you, yeah, 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 yeah. I wanna hold your hand. I know that I just need your life, I've never done before. Help me if you can, I'm feeling down. And I do appreciate you being around.
The park you hear the happy sound of a carousel. You can almost taste the hot dogs and french fries they sell. Under the boardwalk, down by the sea, yeah.
Yaqui Indian, my father's Zapotec Indian. And because of that mixture of cultures, that intermingling of indigenous bloodlines, I stand here tonight looking like Jackie Chan. Everywhere I go, I work Tokyo. They thought I was Japanese, talking to me in Japanese. One thing I did understand, you know, they said their country was becoming Americanized. I said, what are you talking about? No one here even speaks Spanish. A professor came up, said he could determine my ancestry by the structure of my cheekbones. That's embarrassing when guys look back there. Mother won't celebrate Thanksgiving. She says it represents the white man stealing our land. But she's not angry. She's not angry. She figures, what the hell? We're taking it back one casino at a time.
Because the Chicago Club is going on one of its trips. The bus just got here.
Joshua Tree National Park. The strange Joshua tree. As fanciful as something out of fiction. The high elevation of the Mojave Desert creates a special habitat. Joshua Tree National Park. Together with the Colorado Desert and southeastern California, two seemingly unwelcoming ecosystems combine to create the almost 800,000 acres of the park.
Showcase House of Design should have had 25,000 ticket holders walk through its doors by now, but COVID-19 shut it down. Showcase 2020 is online only for visitors. The benefit chair promises that fans of design will get a lot from the experience. Till now, this annual event attracted patrons primarily from Southern California, but the virtual audience can come from worldwide. Built in 1937 for $30,000 for Edmund Locke Jr., it was designed by Gerard Colcord, a USC grad known as Hollywood's society architect. Over the years, the volunteers have attracted crowds to 55 showcase houses, raising a total of more than $23 million in gifts and grants for music and the arts.
Hello, everyone. This is Dorothy Picella with the Chicago Club Travel Show. Welcome to our show today. We have a very special and very different show because today we're not on a bus, right? I'm not in front of a bus. We're at a very special place in Laguna Woods Village. We are having a special show today where we're going to travel back in time. And I do mean back in time. We're going to talk about the history of Laguna Woods Village, and back in time to the very land that this land was purchased from by Ross Cortese. So the very fun part of today is Bill Hoffman. Hoffy is with me. Now, why this is a special treat is because Bill is a professor of history. And guess what? He's never been here before. He didn't even know we had a history center. So that's all right. So I thought how perfect to bring him. So everything you're going to see today, and we'll introduce you to the team in the History Center. Bill has never been here. He's never seen it. And so it's all about him helping us tell the wonderful story of the great history of Laguna Woods Village. So, Bill, what do you think about being here?
Hey, I'm excited. You know, I know that Laguna Woods is a famous planned community, but I had no idea you had a history center. And I've studied South Orange County a lot, and I know about the planned communities and the ranchos, but I had no idea everything is beautifully documented. So I can't wait to see the maps and learn from these people in here and learn from you, and I know I'll have a lot of questions. So once again, I knew that this is a famous planned community, one of the earliest planned communities in Orange County. But now we're going to go back in time to learn even more.
Okay, everybody ready? Let's go on in.
Go ahead.
Okay, we're inside the History Center, and I would love to introduce you to Dean Dixon, who's the CEO of the History Center. He is one of the most valued assets of Laguna Woods Village because he absolutely...
You're being overly generous here.
You're modest.
You're modest, because as we get through the show today, you're going to really understand what a treasure he is to us as well as Orange County. So what we're going to do is first start back in time, particularly with the history of the land grants and Moulton and how we all came to be. Because the thing that's very exciting about our land and the homes our manors sit on is that land.
Right.
So
right.
you are the expert. So I
Well,
would love you to start to tell the history.
The main thing, as far as the Laguna Woods History Center is concerned, is that our purview is human history. So while we've done a bit of repeating other natural histories, we're trying to concentrate on the human history. And that goes back 16,000 years. The Ashaman people were here long before anybody else. Cabrillo stands on the bridge of his ship and claims it all in the name of the King of Spain, and the Ashaman people had just instantly become enslaved. Spanish law at that time was that indigenous people were slaves, and the net result was that nothing happened for 200 years.
Yeah.
So,
you know, I'd like to say, Dean, it's so nice to meet you, and it's exciting for me to see this beautiful history center that I didn't even know existed. So around 13,000 years ago, people from Asia crossed the Bering Strait, and they came into North America and all the way down to South America. And the people that lived here were the Ahashiman, and they were hunters and gatherers. And they lived here for thousands of years. And then Cabrillo, as you mentioned, cruises by in a boat, but he never explored it, did he?
no.
He never went on land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
200 years later, we have the Portola expedition coming through, putting in the missions and the Presidios and El Camino Real.
Yeah. So that's interesting to remember. And I'm a historian, and I love California history. In a very short period of time, a lot happened. So the Spanish arrive in 1769. Portola walks from San Diego all the way almost to San Francisco to find the Royal Road of the missions. And that changed the way of life of the Native Americans forever.
Yeah, but there's a lot of misunderstanding about the Native Americans not having had housing and things. We get docents from the missions occasionally telling us how they all lived in adobes. Yes, they did. They were forced into adobes after the Spanish got here. But
yeah, you know what we might do? I know that Carmen was taking a picture of this, but we're starting with a timeline, and I would like to. One of the things I think is really interesting about Southern Orange County is you had these big land grants, and where they raised cattle, and then they were purchased by or given by the governor of Mexico or by the Spanish.
well, no, this was Mexico.
Yeah, Mexico.
Here.
And suddenly you had all this open land because it was only cattle and some agriculture, and then you could build these amazing planned communities.
We're looking at a video on the wall here, and we welcome people to come in. We have 25 videos that are available for people to watch. This is actually home movies from 1951 roundup on what is commonly called the Moulton Range.
The rolling hills of Orange County were green with winter rains, and the coyotes howled at night when an Ohio transplant named Ross Cortese took an option on some 2,200 acres of open land, a part of the Moulton Ranch. At that time, about 1,000 people lived in the Saddleback Valley, and I-5 was only 2 lanes. Cortese had built the community of Rossmore, Leisure World Seal Beach, and Leisure World Walnut Creek. He was prepared to launch what would be his most successful housing project for seniors, Leisure World Laguna Hills. Cortese purchased the land from Nellie Gale Moulton. Although the hills turn brown in the summer, the year-round climate averages 72 degrees thanks to the ocean breezes. Heavy earth-moving equipment enabled Cortese to create roads and living quarters in the rolling terrain. He spent more than $4 million before the first residence was sold, and his total investment was more than $120 million. Fields that once grew barley or grazed cattle and sheep were sculptured to lay out streets and to level lots. The first homes were sold as cooperatives, financed to buyers using 40-year, 5 3/4% Federal Housing Administration loans. Soon residential building number 1 was ready, and draftsmen were busy designing a community of 30,000 homes. Later this was scaled back to 22,000 because some of the acreage had been used for the Willows, a Christian Science home, and for New World, a subdivision for lower-income families. As each new section opened, the panoramic view became a sea of roofs. The first residents moved in on September 10, 1964. In a few years, the community took on an aura of maturity as trees grew. Leisure World has over 50,000 trees. Transient visitors include cedar waxwings that pause in their annual migrations to enjoy the garden setting. In this safe haven, rabbits multiply, as is their custom. Saddleback can be seen from many of the homes. Old Saddleback gives the valley its name. The taller peak is Mount Santiago at 5,440 feet. Santiago was the battle cry of the conquistadors. The peak, 100 feet lower, is known as Modjeska, for an actress from Europe who built a home in the foothills. Old Man Winter is sure to lay a blanket of snow on the ridges of the Santa Ana Range. To add allure to his project, Cortese constructed a mini garden park on the former Circuit City site. Cortese saw a 50-foot Unisphere at the New York World's Fair and decided to use the sphere as a trademark. The first World was erected in Seal Beach, and the second 32-foot sphere was erected here in 1963. Several years later, when the gears wore out, the globe was relocated behind the Episcopal Church, and the park was converted into a commercial site. The globe remained there until 2003, when it came home to Leisure World and was placed next to Clubhouse 7. A sales pavilion surrounded by model homes was built. As house models grew larger and more complex, scale models made them easier to visualize. In the large reception hall of the sales building, Rossmore Corporation staged the Leisure Worlder of the Month ceremony. Paul Zimmerman, a sports writer for the Los Angeles Times, was the 31st Leisure Worlder of the Month. For a while after Clubhouse 1 was finished, sheep still grazed where the CVS drugstore now stands. In 1965, Clubhouse 1 housed the medical staff and pharmacy, the post office, and a bank. In 1972, Clubhouse 1's dining rooms, art studio, billiards, shortwave radio center, swimming pool, shuffleboard courts, lawn bowling, and bocce courts made it the community's most popular destination. The buses, operated by residents, would stop anywhere, collect no fares, and return every 40 minutes for a new run. In 1979 and 80, 12 bus routes shuttled out of Clubhouse 1, logging over 43,000 miles a month, carrying some 90,000 residents to homes, clubhouses, and local shopping centers. Clubhouse 2 was soon ready on a molten Parkway hill, where once wild mustard grew higher than a sheep's back. In 1966, when this picture was taken, Manning's Cafeteria was located inside Clubhouse 2 until they moved the cafeteria to El Toro Road. The men's card club met here. Ping pong and billiards flourished, and the banquets filled the big room. At night, dancers whirled away the hours. For a few years, the parking was more than adequate until lawn bowling, golf, and swimming began to draw crowds. Flowers blanketed the hillside leading down to the pro shop. In 1978, the golf pro shop logged over 13,000 rounds. Devotees of Scotland's national pastime pleaded for and got 9 more holes, for a total of 27, at a gross cost of $1,700,000. Winter, summer, spring, or fall, only rains can keep ardent golfers from their appointed rounds. Golf was the second most popular sport in Leisure World, and starting times were not easy to get. The golf course is sprinkled with reclaimed water from the El Toro Water District sanitation plant located behind the hill beyond Clubhouse 2. The holding pond next to Garden Center 1 catches the runoff and assures a reserve. In Cortese's original plans, land was reserved for Clubhouse 3. GRF bought the land, planned and built the structure for about $500,000. Clubhouse 3 was dedicated on March 5, 1971. Residents and dignitaries shared the happy occasion. Administrator Robert Price was master of ceremonies. Today, hundreds of people come to programs in the 834-seat auditorium, play billiards, or participate in club activities in the dining rooms. Clubhouse 5 was under construction in 1975 and opened in 1980 with a week of special events. Clubhouse 6 was first used by Cortese to entertain prospective homebuyers. Later it catered to social groups and provided billiards and swimming for residents. Our homes are numbered consecutively as built in a unique layout that was acceptable to postal authorities, but which often puzzles residents and visitors. The last house is number 5598. Many homes are unpretentious but comfortable. They were built to sell at prices between $12,000 and $25,000, which was attractive to those of modest means. Cordoba. Spanish names abound, not only for street names, but also for manors. Many residents develop colorful borders near their manors. The community has about 4 million flowers and plants. Bougainvillea, a native of South America, was popular. The Merriweather's garden had an oriental look. Pictured is this show's author and photographer, Harold Kime. On holidays, Leisure World was a sea of flags. The Seville was the first 2-story model. The building housed 4 units. The Casa Linda has charm, and the uneven terrain lent character to the community, which in 1978 was cited as Professional Landscape of the Year. This 1968 photo illustrates the more than 175 miles of sidewalks.
Ranch as Molten Ranch. Starting in the mid-30s, the common usage became the Molten's Ranch, but to this day they refer to it as Nijuel Ranch, which is based on the Rancho Nijuel land grant that was made to the Avila family. But for people that live here now, they would look at this video and say, where are the trees? There were no trees. The only trees in the area were along Aliso Creek. Aliso Creek is a spring-fed creek. We have lots of creeks in the area that have names, but not all of them do much except during the rainy season. So as watershed, do they carry water? Yes, but not year round. So the spring-fed aspect of this becomes important to the Ashman, to the Spanish when they get here, Mexico, human existence. We need fresh water.
Yeah. So you're saying that this was because of our Mediterranean climate, largely open hills. There might have been some sycamore trees, some oak trees, but that was about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they need to have a constant water source, and Aliso Creek gave them that, so that's why we have the 450-year-old tree down there.
Yeah.
The El Aliso Viejo.
Oh, that's what it is. Aliso Viejo is I never knew that.
Yeah, Aliso is the Spanish word for alder, and apparently, I'm not a tree guy, but apparently California sycamores are alders, and that's where it came from.
Oh.
And then the rancho to the north of here east of here, was Rancho Cañada de los Alisos.
Oh. Is that tree still, it's around? Where is it?
It's at the creek.
At the creek.
Where it's got constant water.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it's a riparian.
Yeah. And the creek actually goes right around it, so it's getting really good water.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So can we go from the rancho cattle period? Then what happened after that?
Well,
And should we look at pictures, or because Carmen's kind of cruising around? Yeah. So the cattle that's from 1951?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's my year of my birth, by the way, 70 years ago. And
a mere child.
Yeah, mere child, that's right. So this must have been a pretty successful operation. When did they stop it?
22,000 acres. The original land grant was for around 14,000. The Avilas were land-rich, cash poor, ended up selling off parcels till basically they had nothing. Rawson's two brothers come to town in the late 1800s and decide to reassemble that, and they go out and purchase basically the rancho back, but ended up with 17,000 acres, so more yet. And it was from the Rawsons that the Moulton family bought the property, and they took it to 22,000 acres.
Yeah.
So,
can you help me with something that I've read about? So when California became a state and the Mexican-American War was over, we got California, Arizona, New Mexico, etc.
Right.
But many of the Mexican families still had title to this land, like the Avilas or the other families.
yeah,
Did they lose their titles in some ways?
No, not at all. Actually, what took place was after the United States took over and the reparations, or the $15 million was paid, the people that had those titles to those land grants had to go through a process with the courts in the United States.
Yeah.
And the net result is that the Moulton family to this day has a document that says that they have a valid Mexican land grant that went to the Avilas, and it's signed by Ulysses S. Grant.
Wow.
So it gets a little confusing to people. Even the Moultons didn't understand this process because the assumption was that that's the land grant. No, that's just a court confirmation of going through the process and proving that you actually have title to
Interesting.
it.
Did some of the Mexican land grant families, were they unsuccessful when they went to court trying to defend their land? Because think of all the Americans who wanted to build homes, and maybe they even squatted on some of this land.
Well, there was a fair amount of that in North Orange County. The big one there was Rancho Nietos, which was broken up into 5 ranchos by the family after the passing of the original Spanish land grant in this case. And it's a good example of the kind of confusion that comes, because even though that's a Spanish land grant, we think of it as being 5 parcels of land. that one went from the San Gabriel River to the Santa Ana River.
Wow.
So talk about a chunk of real estate.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of acres.
I'm interested, so I'm going to ask the question again. So
Sure.
I'm interested in knowing how we went from a thriving cattle ranch of how many herd? How many?
22,000.
22,000 head of cattle
No,
to
acres.
excuse me, a huge parcel of land with cattle, maybe a little bit of agriculture. How did it end up into one of the most famous planned communities in the nation?
The first portion of the 22,000 acres that the Moultons owned, and incidentally, we should mention that the Moultons didn't own it by themselves. Lewis F. Moulton and Company is 1/3 owned by the Daguerre family and 2/3 by the Moulton family. So when we say the Moulton Ranch, we're also talking about 1/3 being owned by the Daguerres, and if people are familiar with daguerreotypes,
Interesting, the
it's a
daguerreotypes, yeah.
It's a cousin.
I'm curious where the Moultons were from.
Depends on which part of the family we're talking. Lewis F. Moulton, Lewis Fenno Moulton, was born to a patrician family in Chicago. His father was a Harvard-educated lawyer. The family was well-connected, often having Abraham Lincoln at the dinner table.
Oh, nice.
So as a kid, he had this wonderful storytelling about having had that experience. But the family split up when he was 10 years old. Now, they didn't divorce, as was common in those days. She goes back to Massachusetts and ends up raising her family independent from the father. And by being around her family, Lewis has an uncle, a brother of his mother, who is in the woolens business. So again, patrician family, that we're not hurting for money here. They came with money to buy land out here. So he went west, young man, to seek his fortune, and did that very thing. But he came with a connection to a woolens business.
Now, when you say woolens, you mean wool from sheep?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So this was a sheep ranch.
Yeah.
And the idea was that to pay back the money to buy the land, it would be done through the process of shearing the sheep and providing the wool to the family in Massachusetts. So he comes from a patrician background. How do you raise sheep? Sheep are a little trickier than cattle. Sheep pull up the grass and eat it roots and all, and it becomes a problem for somebody just coming in cold. This is where the Daguerres enter. They're French Basque. They come with background in raising sheep, and he bought into the company, and anyway, they for people that are living in the area, the Moulton family lived where Trader Joe's is. And if you go up to the corner of Los Alisos and Valencia, apartments are there, and that's where the Daguerres lived.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. You know, just to think about some of the areas around Laguna Woods Village, we have the Rancho Mission Viejo, where the O'Neill family, bought land from the Mexican land grant, and they were cattle ranchers as well. But over time, the O'Neill family realized there's more money to be made in homes than cattle.
Yeah.
Although, it's kind of fun, if you go to a Rancho Mission Viejo to this day, they call some of the streets cow camp. They really are playing on there, and they should. It's still a cattle ranch, and that's what this was too. And James Irvine, who makes a friend in San Francisco, James Flood, who had the money. James Irvine didn't have as much money. They come down and buy, 50,000 acres. So that's another huge ranch purchased from the Mexican land grant.
Right.
Yep. So from the cattle, did it transition to agriculture?
Well, there was a bit of agriculture anyway. The cattle thing comes as Daguerre dies. here come automobiles, scare a horse, it tips over a buggy, and Daguerre's dead. So the result of that was suddenly we're going in the cattle business. And part of that comes at a time when this was no longer open range. The sheep had to be driven to the bottom of Lake Arrowhead before it became a lake to feed them during the summer season. So when we come back, their grazing area has recovered from pulling up the grass and eating the roots. So the loss of access across open range was part of the process that took them to cattle.
Yeah, interesting. And then, so I'd like to see, you've got some beautiful pictures. Maybe we could take a stroll?
Sure.
I'd like you to pick whatever you think tells part of the story, because you get some beautiful, this is amazing.
Let's start with the 450-year-old tree. This is an artist's conception, but it speaks to the issues of things having been here a lot longer than 1964 when Leisure World started.
Yeah. And I just like to point out, being from Laguna, these kind of landscapes is what the plein air artists loved. They not only loved seascapes, they loved the Saddleback, the Santiago Peak, and they loved the beautiful sycamore trees in particular.
Right.
And then when the eucalyptus trees were brought in, they of course painted those a lot too.
Sure.
Wow.
Sure. And of course, one of the most famous painters of that era was Nellie Mae Gale Moulton.
Oh, nice.
Who was a co-founder of the art colony and the design school in the canyon.
Yeah. What do we have here?
This is a group, again, artists have taken license with this, but this is a group of iconic things in the community. Here's your tree again. The Taj Mahal Medical Center was originally Rossmore Corporation's headquarters and world headquarters.
1960s?
1960s,
Yeah.
right.
And then here's the original Leisure World.
It's commonly called the globe. It's
The
a
globe,
unisphere.
yeah. And then this is clearly mission-style architecture. Does this?
Well, that's St. George's Episcopal Church. I'm not sure which church this is, but it's one of the ones that was added by the gifting of property from Rossmore Corporation to the churches. The way it worked was once they had a congregation of 100 people, they were given a parcel of land provided they would build on it within 2 years, and that came from Rossmore Corporation. All of this is coming out of a study that was done by the University of Southern California for Ross Cortese. Cortese finishes Leisure World and Seal Beach and realizes he needs more information. So he goes, first of all, he sets up something called Cortese Institute within the corporation itself and starts researching. In that process, they discover other people are researching. They go to the University of Southern California, commission a study. The study comes back and blows his socks off. Immediately, he donates $1 million to the school to permanently endow the chair and creates the first gerontology school in the United States.
Wow.
So that is the defining part of this community. This is the first community in the world based on gerontology.
Wow,
so if people are connecting the dots to gerontology in other parts of the world, they come here to research, which we'll get to when we get in the back.
Now, that topic interests me a little bit. So the first grant for gerontology in the United States, how did that manifest itself in the design? Was it pathways for health walk? Was it clustered housing?
Okay, no. And I understand the direction you're going with it. Not necessarily did that influence it, probably in some ways, but I don't know the connection there. What I would say is that it changed everything because we had moved from a housing development. Retirement communities before were basically housing developments with age restrictions. And they were being marketed like all housing developments. I'm going to sell to your wants. You want to play golf. we have a golf
Yeah.
course. You want to swim, we have a swimming pool.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be, we're going to market to your wants. The big difference after gerontology becomes involved is this is a retirement community. These people are going to age out in here. What are their needs? So suddenly, from the USC study, we have meeting people's needs as the important part. And essentially it said, if it's going to be needed by people inside the gates, it should be just outside the gates. So from year one, day one, we had a doctor at Clubhouse 1. He had 4 nurses. That turned into Saddleback Memorial Hospital.
Wow.
So the process of learning these things was in this particular community.
Interesting. And I wonder if the clubhouses were part of meeting the needs of the residents inside the gates.
Well, certainly from the standpoint that it was used for a variety of things, but not the least of which is having a doctor and a medical component in an area that had previously not had water, sewage, electrical, anything.
Yeah.
This was raw land, as you pointed
That's
out
amazing.
earlier.
Yeah. Well, look, could we see some more pictures?
Sure. We have 5 named walks in the community, and this one is Friendship Walk, and you see a plaque there in the corner. That's not actually where it is, but in fact, recently it fell down and is getting a new home. But anyway, the walks and walking in phase 1 is the reason Gail and I live here.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you have this, just kind of showing what the ranch was like back before.
One of the things that we have going on in the community is that we have people from all over the world. It's very cosmopolitan, and one of the important aspects of our role in the community is to provide them with information that they may not have gotten by not being educated in California.
Interesting.
And that's a good one. That's Saddleback, even though there has never been a Saddleback. We have Majeska Peak on the left and Santiago Peak on the right, and the saddle between is the Saddleback.
Yeah, that's what most people call it. I teach at Saddleback College.
Yes, yeah.
I should call it Santiago.
This is commonly called Saddleback Valley.
Yeah.
But those are the Santa Ana Mountains, not the Saddleback Mountains. So anyway,
this is
there's your globe.
When was the globe put in?
Globe was put in early. This particular location is near what I don't want to be selling the store that's there. Anyway, it's Ashley Furniture is what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, the point is that this was visible from the freeway, which was very new in those days, and as a result, it attracted people here. It's a copy of the 120-foot stainless steel Unisphere that was at the 1964 World's Fair in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, wow.
And Ross Cortese goes, sees it, and says, there's a Leisure World.
Yeah, that's good.
And so he comes back and has 7 of these made, 32-foot diameter, but they were really ephemera from a historian's standpoint. It wasn't expected to last. It was done with galvanized pipe and fiberglass.
Yeah.
And,
was the one in the Seal Beach?
the one in Seal Beach, and the reference to Seal Beach as Leisure World is related to the fact that Seal Beach was built before they registered all of this to Rossmore Corporation.
Oh, okay, interesting.
And Ross Cortese dies at the age of 74 in 1991, and the things that the corporation owned were moved to the family as the corporation was went through dissolution.
This photograph here interests me.
That's the first meeting held at the Performing Arts Center, which is why you have people on stage there performing, for want of a better term. Anyway, it was obviously under construction at that point.
Oh, 1971. Now, the Seal Beach planned community is early 60s, and this is mid 60s, kind of roughly.
A lot of this took place around the same time,
Yeah.
but yes, certainly it was completed first, and the things that were learned there were transferred here, as well as the curiosity from Ross Cortese's standpoint in getting more information and understanding things better so that they can better serve the residents.
This is probably bigger than the one up there, I would imagine. I don't know.
I'm guessing that. I don't know. It's very different.
Yeah, it
if
is
you
very
go in.
different. Yeah. It's almost like when I went to the Leisure World in Seal Beach, and it's really dated, the architecture and the light fixtures, but it's almost historic now. Think about it, 1960, that's 70, that's 60, that's 80 years old.
Right.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Wait, no, I have that wrong. 60 years old. Right. Yeah.
Well, but
Yep.
it's still a long time.
That's so, definitely. Because in Los Angeles, 50 years is the threshold for a historic building. You have to be at least 50 years old. Now, can people come in here and do research?
Yes, we have. I'm going to have our curator, who is my wife, Gail Dixon, take you out back and talk to you about the archive. But much of what we have, I'd like to have more of it, but a lot of what we have is digitized, and we have it available. We have our own server. We have 8 workstations where people can do research.
Oh, awesome.
The last people, again, this connects back to, this is the first pin in the map that says we're basing things on gerontology.
Yeah.
So if that's
that
what's
was
being
doing
studied,
comprehensive
research, we're from Denmark.
Oh,
And
interesting.
So
Wow.
the answer to your question is yes. So the workstations are available under supervision. We don't want people messing around
of
with
course
our
not.
archives, our digital archives.
Conscious of
and,
the fact that this was
so
a game
they,
changer
worldwide. And they started collecting things. Those physical collections were paperwork from the original organizations of the homeowners associations and so forth. And as they set up a committee, the committee evolved in 1977 to the corporation that we have now. We are separate from governance in the community, the 3 homeowners associations and the Common Areas Association. And they assessments that people pay do not come to us. We operate on donations only. In fact, those donations came to us, and we built this building in 1997, and it is the only purpose-built local history archive in Orange County.
Wow.
So the connection to the community is rich, as going back and being part of the original thing, but we split off and became a separate thing. So when we incorporated in 1977, we were the Leisure World Historical Society of Laguna Hills, California, Inc.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay.
so I guess they turned the page sideways to get that on the letterhead. But the point is that the donations came to us as an educational charity for tax purposes, and allowed us to build this building. We built it on Golden Rain Foundation land with the understanding that it would be passed along to them for taking care of the exterior. Everything that's inside is ours, I guess is the way
if
of saying it.
somebody came in here, how do you organize all this? This looks pretty organized to me.
We have photographs and printed materials there in those file cabinets, and they're all archivally safe, meaning that we don't have acid producing file folders and so forth, because you can lose the document. After a period of years, they turn yellow and some of the printing disappears. Over on this side, we have clubs and organizations who store their materials here rather
Wow.
than having them in someone's closet where they disappear when
Chicago
the
Club?
kids come and help clean out their homes.
So Gail, tell us how old some of these records are.
They go back to 1964. at
From the
least,
very
maybe-
foundation of the
maybe
village.
Before that.
Yeah.
They're here.
Exactly.
And look at the Chicago Club is there.
We're
They
here.
Number
are.
4.
They certainly
Yeah.
40
are.
years.
Yep. And club members can come in and take things out and put things in. If the public comes in, or the residents of Laguna Woods, even outside people come in and we register them to make sure we know who's here. And they can look at the materials, but they can't take anything out
That makes
unless
sense.
they're
Yeah.
an authorized signer. Then we also have clubs and organizations who are out of business or don't want to store their things here anymore, and they might gift them to us.
Right.
And then we'll store them, and we can find the information too.
Wow. Maybe this is an unfair request, but could we see a photograph?
Oh, sure.
Because I think that would add some, some visual
Absolutely.
interest. So
I had actually pulled something out
yeah.
here
So
thinking it was
Carmen, let's take a look at a photograph, just to give an idea.
Sure.
This is.
You might want to go through the process of pulling it out because it shows the archival storage aspect of what you.
Oh, right. Okay. Let's take a photo from the early days. Everybody loves the early days. Okay, this would be, let's find one that might be, well, we don't know what we have here. I can't read it. It's too far away from me. So this is an archival sleeve to keep them in so that they don't disappear. And this is something that people should never put their photos in because
Oh,
you can see
yeah.
what happened when some of the materials were taken off of there. So this happens to be a picture of the globe. And this happens to be a picture of some of the Golden Rain Foundation members, and their names are on the back. And you can see how old those are, and if they weren't in an archival sleeve, they would probably have faded.
I can tell by their ties.
Yeah.
Yeah, and their haircuts.
Well, that too. Yes.
Carmen, your haircut wouldn't make it there.
And look at stamps in the post office. This says early
Yes.
post office.
Yes. Love that.
5-cent stamps.
I was noticing
Yeah.
this one. Look at this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, isn't that great?
Look at that aerial photograph of the village. So there's Moulton. Here's El Toro. That's amazing. Wow. I wonder if they have a date on that.
One thing that Cortese did a lot of. was
79. Look at that. That is incredible. So there's this whole thing is
It
photographs.
is. And then
Wow.
we have, subjects. You might say, okay, let's see. I want to look at the Saddleback Kiwanis newsletter. Well, we happen to have that in here.
Jeez.
They also have their own files that they keep track of that we, over the years, have compiled. That
So just
over.
while you're on that, so you can take a look. If you're a true historian,
Right,
they're all categorized
right.
back to 2000. Well, whatever. This happens to be 2004, but
Right, I'm sure
this
they go
is
back.
incredible organization. What do you think, by the way, is a really cool photograph or historical, or is it all interesting to you?
It's all interesting
Yeah.
to me, especially when someone's looking for something. I love coming back
Yeah.
here and I'll spend the day finding the
Yeah.
darn thing.
Yeah.
And then,
Oh, look at this. Through this gate on September 10th, 1964, came the first residents of Leisure World.
right.
How did you get this?
There was a lawsuit between the Cortese heirs and the governance here, the three homeowners association and the common areas association, and that was over paying royalties to them.
Oh.
So, Seal Beach pays nothing because nothing had been registered when they became Leisure World, when they became, had the Globe and all of that kind of thing. Here, we were paying. And
Oh, yeah.
to lower that, in my opinion, that's how we ended up in litigation. Heidi Cortese and her husband ended up owning the things that Rossmore Corporation had owned after the dissolution of the corporation. And the process did not go our way. We lost.
Okay.
So essentially what happened was the judge says you can do two things. You can pay the royalties to the people who own the rights to those things, or you can do away with all those things. So suddenly we decide to do away with all of those things, and we are faced with the fact that we are then Leisure World Laguna Woods, and we have the 32-foot globe and references to the Corteses. So that, back to the question that was asked, the bronze plaques that we have, including the one that has Cortese in bas relief right.
Oh, look at
up
this.
here,
Did you get this, Carmen?
all of those had to come down because they own the rights to all of that. And that's how we became, we went from Leisure World Laguna Woods to a vote that asked that the court approve Leisure Woods. Goes to the court, the judge says, yeah, nice try, but no. And as a result, we became Laguna Woods Village.
Right. Okay.
Crowley
there's some
was
treasures
a
in-
cartoonist for Disney, and when he moved here, he did cartoons for the village, always, thousands and thousands of them. We have the rights to utilize these any way we might like to, and he has donated, while he was living, he donated originals to us. So we have some of those, and that's always exciting to go
That's
through.
great.
So he was one of our stars.
Nice.
And then back here,
I'm so excited. I can't wait. Look,
is our original security
look at this.
Wow.
chief, his jacket, and their
Nate
picture.
Wilner.
Can you
Yes.
believe this
This is
is
a lady's hat.
This was the uniforms of the original security department when we opened Leisure World.
Yes,
Hence it says,
yes.
Yeah, Rossmore.
Rossmore.
Yeah, look at this,
oh,
Carmen.
look at this.
There's the globe. That looks pretty official to
Isn't
me.
this amazing? And how many uniforms do we have in the
We
archives?
have probably 4 or 5. We do have a woman's jacket, and then
Uh-huh.
I got this woman's hat out.
Yeah.
And we had,
Wow.
the first woman was well celebrated, you can imagine.
And what year might that have been?
I did a little article and put it on Facebook, but that was a while back and I don't remember.
It's okay. It was a while ago.
I can find
She
out.
was.
And then this
These are
group
great.
here, these are 40 years of what was the Leisure World Globe, and now it's the,
Open up one of the boxes.
oh, that's a good idea, sure.
Yeah.
And all of these have been scanned on our large format scanner,
Wow. You
which
mean
is
every,
right
every
over
page?
here. Every page.
Wow.
And a lady who is now 104, I think, spent 3 years scanning these with a younger woman whom she met on the bus coming to the History Center.
Wow.
She talked her into
Those are all searchable on the digital.
Oh,
correct.
very good. That's
Yeah.
impressive. This is quite an operation.
Wait till you see the China. Let's
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's go
You
look.
could
Yeah.
tell them about the China.
Come on with me.
Come on, Dorothy. Get in here. Oh my God.
So exciting. Come near me so I have the microphone.
Oh, I'll give you the microphone. How
No,
about? No, all right. Excuse me.
So if you can imagine, there are place settings of China that say Leisure World Laguna Hills 1964, 1984 to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the village. Look at all this China. I mean, it's got the crystal, it's got the mugs, it's got the cream and sugar.
This is
It's
great.
actually got, look at this, this is such a hoot. I mean, we've even got some Armatel to do it. And here we have everything here. And this used to be for Clubhouse 1 dining room.
Correct. And then when they got new dishes, they donated to us. And then also Heidi Cortese apparently had a number of plates and saucers and so forth. And she donated some, actually probably about 3 or 4 years ago.
So do you know if somebody rented Clubhouse 1 dining room, it came with the china
That's my understanding.
crystal.
And we have pictures of tables that
with the formal
yes,
settings and
yes,
the tablecloths
yes, and the
it would-
flowers
and,
the
flowers and it would
and
commemorate
the women in their stoles and their
hats.
yes.
I love it.
Boy, Boy, that's amazing.
So now let's take a look at those signs, Carmen. I love these signs.
Oh,
Look at
wow.
these.
So there's Via Estrada, Paseo de Valencia, Calle Aragon. Nice, nice Spanish script.
Yes, yes.
Wow. When did they take those signs down, I wonder?
We don't know exactly. Someone donated them to us, but we don't know. But they obviously are.
I think they're better
Pretty
than the
old.
ones, the boring green ones now. I say we bring back a little flair. Come on.
Bill, look at this. This is Africa from the globe.
Oh my goodness.
Look at that. It's the actual tip of Africa.
This right here.
Yes.
Yeah, look at that.
What was on
Yeah.
the globe.
Oh, it fell from the
From the
globe. Did
globe.
you get a picture of that, Carmen?
No, it didn't fall.
It was
That had
removed.
to be torn down because of the lawsuit.
Wow.
And one of our good residents, who's still very involved in the community, Doug Rook, brought that to us. Yes, Bill, I knew you would like those.
I love these. Look at this aerial photograph of Laguna Hills Mall, I guess. Is that Laguna Hills Mall?
That
No.
would be the Taj Mahal, so yes,
Oh,
you're
yeah,
right.
that's right. Or is that Saddleback Hospital?
Isn't this the mall?
There's the mall.
There's the
the
mall.
mall. Okay. You know, this is your typical model of the 60s, a sea of parking surrounding a linear, I mean, that's the classic. I think the first shopping center was opened actually in the Detroit area, but maybe before we leave today, we can look at how they're going to redo this as a center, because I'm very interested in people gathering places, because people don't want to just go shop. They want to hang out, relax, and then eat and shop. Because you can see, park your car and go in. And that's a good model, but I think we need to take advantage of our good climate. Look at the Spanish, look at the red tile.
Right.
Very common. I wonder if that was originally, that was very popular in the 60s. Was that originally, was red tile required?
I assume it was
Yeah.
because it's everywhere, and you'll find, particularly at Laguna Hills City Hall, that references to the history of the community is extensive.
Yeah. Look at how low scale, these are 1 and 2 story. This is El Toro and Molten. You have an amazing amount of, oh my God, I'm in heaven here.
I knew it.
Now, I'm going to be critical here. I'm not critical of the History Center, but this is Orange County, these huge arterials, and you almost kill yourself crossing the street.
That's for sure.
It is not pedestrian friendly. I've seen people barely making it across there. So I'm hoping this new Laguna, what is it called, the new mall?
The Village.
The Village. I'm hoping
Village.
it'll have narrower streets and be more pedestrian friendly. But this is a classic aerial, and whoever took this wasn't too far. They were pretty,
Very high.
not very high. This must have been from a helicopter, a blimp.
I don't know.
This is super cool. Wow. Thank you for letting me look at this. Yeah.
I was thinking about that.
BD.
I have no idea.
Oh my God.
So this is just single-family homes that are the townhouses attached, I guess.
Well, right. The garages are in the front, so the garages would definitely be attached. I can't tell if the houses, the units might be separate with the garages attached.
Yeah. So this is by Ace Aerial Photograph,
Oh, right.
1985. So there is a treasure trove of aerial photographs and documents. I do want to say, one of my friends is an urban designer, and he came in 15 years ago, and his company proposed taking the green belts. You know how Laguna Woods has all these green belts? Proposed putting more barbecue pits, putting more gathering places, but for whatever reason it was shot down. I mean, I don't know how much the little green belt is used, and maybe the ownership patterns, but I thought it was an interesting concept.
To the beginning, and I don't. One
Yeah,
is
look
out
at
of place there.
1966.
Right.
There's
I
the
found some friends of my parents in a couple of them.
Yep. By the way, there's a lot of Perkins, and there's a lot of Petersons. Oh, and there's advertisements too.
Right.
Oh, this is amazing.
That's one of the things fun about looking at the globe. Going back that far, you see the price of bread, the price of
Yeah.
at Thanksgiving, the price of turkey, and
Laguna Hills coiffures. What is the word? Coiffure, yeah. Is Laguna Nursery still here?
Laguna Beach Nursery. Laguna
Yeah.
Nursery is still in Laguna Beach.
Yeah, South Coast Highway, you're right, yeah. Interesting. Vacation Village. So they're advertising Laguna Beach here too.
Sure.
Interesting. Wow.
Books, not official
I think
documents.
we have some documents over on this side, but
City of So, for example, would these be minutes of meetings, or
they would probably be more of a scrapbook.
can we just take one look?
Sure.
So here's a scrapbook from 1999, from January to March, of all the things that happened in Laguna Woods. And apparently this is not the Globe. What was the newspaper then? Was it?
Leisure World News.
Oh,
Right.
oh, okay.
And you see that the person made copies, well, except for there, and making copies of the newspaper articles kept them from having the acid content fade out where you couldn't read it.
Oh, that's, yeah.
The city of Laguna Woods was founded when?
1999.
1991.
Yeah.
2014. Then our 25th anniversary, which is this book, just got digitized and can be downloaded for free on our website. And we should mention that our website is not through the village. Our website is lagunawoodshistory.org. So people say we can't find you. They're looking in the wrong place, and understandably so. Okay, let me get Broderick. Anyway, that's an oil painting of Ross Cortese done by Richard Broderick in 2019 from a photograph that he has luckily taken some artist license with and got rid of some things that were confusing the photograph and detracting from him. But anyway, I had mentioned Ross Cortese is the Ross and Rossmore Corporation. Interesting man. He left school to sell fruit and ended up flipping houses, then got into housing development, and he lived in a 20,000 square foot house on 3 acres in Lemon Heights in Santa Ana, and flew his own helicopter from that property to land next to the Taj Mahal, which is where corporate headquarters was. He had over 200 people in that building working for him, and as we've talked about, he needed everything. So he had civil engineers, architects, designers, anything that was going to be needed to create a planned community out of raw land.
Yeah, wow. You know, and I'm going to recommend this book. I was looking through this book. This is the 50-year anniversary book. It is beautifully documented, and it's in chronological order. What I find really interesting is some of the names of the streets. Malaga, Aragon, Sevilla are named after famous Spanish towns, since this was first owned by the Spanish, then the Mexicans, and that's only appropriate and also explains the red tile
Everywhere.
roofs, and not only in the village, but on El Toro Road. But this is absolutely beautiful.
Well, 350 photographs, but there's still 59,000 words in there, so there's some content.
There's some really good content.
Yeah.
And this became the 32nd city in,
Yeah.
32nd city in Orange
31st
County.
state and 32nd city and county.
Yeah, and there's 34 cities in Orange County. That's just amazing. Yeah, this book is fabulous.
Yeah, and just to link to other historical venues in the area, if people have not been to City Hall, not in Laguna Woods, but in Laguna Hills, They will find out a lot about the rancho system, all the different ranchos that were here. There's even a special section on Nellie Gale Moulton.
Interesting.
And a timeline that is actually proportional.
Yeah, unlike our timeline. But
Unlike
yeah, if
this.
you'll come over here, Carmen, this to me is really interesting how they laid out the city. Curving streets with a lot of green belts, so there's accessible open space. It can't grow anymore, can it?
Well, no, but it took a long time to get where we are.
Yeah.
You happen to be looking at the greenest area from the standpoint of acreage of Greenbelt, which is phase 1, gates 1 through 4. Gates 5 and 6 are basically the phase 2. Phase 3 is basically 7 and 8, and 9, 10, and 11 are where it ended up. Gate 14 got in there too. Anyway, it was over an 18-year period. So, and done in 5 phases. So that's why we have very different housing in different areas, because at the end of 18 years, you're into a different generation.
Yeah.
And that.
So you said this had the most open space, maybe?
Yes,
The first
and the
phase?
least density.
Least density.
And it's very different from the standpoint that the people that were retiring in the 1960s, again, the first people moved in September 10th, 1964, those people had raised their families during the Great Depression. So their attitude towards having a second car and so forth kind of explains why Rossmore Corporation's building suddenly became referred to as the Taj Mahal.
Yeah. You know, this sort of design is typical of greenbelt towns on the East Coast, like Reston, Virginia, in the way you try to incorporate nature. There's lots of lush landscaping, which I think is one of the beauties of Laguna Woods.
Absolutely.
And the streets are not rectilinear. They're not grid patterns. They're more of a pastoral. You feel like you're in the country, which I think people here really like.
And they connect to the hills, the rolling hills aspect of the community too. One thing we talked about it, but I don't know in what context, but there were no trees here other than along Aliso Creek. So Cortese and Rossmore Corporation planted 55,000 trees.
Wow.
It was overplanted. I understand now we're down to 33,000 trees. But the original people that were coming to look at the models and potential locations were being sold views, because all of the trees were sticks in the ground, and there was no way to envision how beautiful it would become with mature trees. So we had a lot of interest that came from different views, and for people that live here and are already frustrated with it, even the newbies, or especially the newbies maybe, we don't have street addresses, we have building numbers, and the building numbers were assigned as the buildings were built. I happen to live in a 700, and there were 4 areas of 700s being built at the same time, so when you came to visit your salesman to take you out and see where your house was going to be, he would sell you the view, even though eventually it was completely built up, and of course the trees matured.
For Viz is great. Can we look at the town center plan just to show people what the Laguna Mall might, because I saw you had a photo.
Well, we've got three posters, and you have to decide which one you like the best.
This is pretty gorgeous.
This is, well, they're all the same kind of thing, but they're different views. This one is coming from the freeway, El Toro, Luisa, Valencia.
So what I noticed right away, you know, a nice landscaping to buffer the edges, and then you have a large community gathering place. Love it, I think.
And that's where, off of that, will be whatever commercial shopping that's available. Because basically this is a combination of the apartments and offices.
Yeah.
And
So yeah, it's
and-
mixed
and-
use.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this. So potentially family can live here, they can walk to their job, they
Yep.
can they can shop, get a bite to eat. This is a true village. It's a mixed use town center.
Yeah, and we probably should address that because we already have people thinking that this village has been named for our village. And in 2001, the city of Laguna Hills, which is headquartered at their city hall here, took Valencia, as it comes around, Carlota, and Los Alisos, and designated that section as their urban village.
Oh, interesting.
So not till 2005 did we change the name of the community here. And there's a...
So this has nothing to do with Laguna Woods Village?
No.
Yeah.
Not only that, but it has nothing to do with Laguna Woods, the city.
Okay.
This is actually in Laguna
I
Hills.
see. Okay. But I think it's kind of important for the community.
It's hugely important
Yeah.
because part of the thing that was put together from the USC study even was to provide what's going to be needed just outside the gates.
Good
So
point.
we've gone from a massive shopping mall to a completely different kind of thing. We'll still be there.
Yeah.
It's just outside our gates.
I think it's exciting. Yeah, because that's the trend. Higher density urban villages. Not everybody can be in a single family home. There's not enough room.
Yeah, one of the things, and then this will be interesting, you can comment on this. One of the things that seems to be concerning a lot of people is the increase of traffic in the area as a result of this. And I'm not sure that I think that it's going to increase, because if you're living there and working there and shopping there, where's the traffic coming
No, that's
from?
the whole idea. The idea is it's a little bit self-contained. You
Right.
have 3 uses here. In fact, you have residential, commercial, and office, and also you have some recreational uses. So you don't have to drive to Laguna Beach all the time.
Right,
You can get a nice meal here, a place to relax. I think it's exciting.
Yeah, after all the stumbles along the way in getting them to this point, I would agree.
That's nice. Yeah. Well, I'm out of questions. I've been thrilled to talk to you and meet you. You know so much, and you're so gracious, and so's your wife. Thank you. You were wonderful, and we learned a lot. And if you have any other questions, but I want to thank you. I have greater respect now. I just didn't know this was here. I'm thrilled at this.
And we clearly have traveled back
Well,
in time.
we should mention that even though we're trying to operate to professional standards, we are an all-volunteer organization. Nobody's being paid. And as mentioned before, and I can't mention this enough, we get nothing out of the assessments. So we've always got our hand out, hoping that somebody will help us along the way.
Well, I think they should. This is a beautiful, important place. Do you want to?
No, how did
Okay.
you do on this trip?
Yeah, this is amazing. We didn't have to go all the way to Hollywood to learn a whole bunch. This was fantastic. Yeah.
And if people are interested in getting deeper into what came before Leisure World here, we offer plenty of that too.
Yeah, that is great. Well, thanks again, Dean.
Our
That was
pleasure.
wonderful.
Great job.
Thank you
Thanks for
so much.
coming.
Great job. Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so this is a great site. And I totally recommend this Laguna Woods Village book, too, of the 50th anniversary. You can learn so much here. So I'm going to come back and do
If
some
they're
research.
interested in governance and gerontology, the 25th anniversary book takes a deep dive into both of those, and that's downloadable for free off of the website.
Wow. Not that book.
No,
That one.
that one.
Yeah.
But
Fulfilling retirement dreams.
That covers the evolution of governance here, which
Yeah.
is tricky. The original intention was to have 60 homeowners associations here.
Oh, boy.
And eventually those got combined. So when we hear united, That's one of them. The other is third, and the reason it's third is it was the third reorganization, gathering 37 different homeowners associations under one umbrella.
Yeah.
Hello, friends. We had one more part of history to share with you today that many of you may never have come to visit. We're in Aliso Creek, and believe it or not, the most famous sycamore ever is right behind us. This sycamore tree is 450 years old. It is older than the United States. It was here before the Pilgrims. So since we were telling everybody about the history of the village, this is where it really started, 450 years ago. This sycamore tree is unbelievable.
And the word for sycamore is aliso, hence the word aliso viejo, old sycamore, and here it is. And the sycamore tree is one of the few native trees in Southern California. You can see the beautiful leaves coming out now that it's springtime. And sycamore trees will only be found in a riparian habitat where there's water. And as you can see, Aliso Creek is actually a river. It's not a creek today. This runoff from the rain we had is going to end up in Laguna Beach. I wish we could capture this water a little better and replenish our water table, but what a beautiful bit of nature here. This is natural history right here.
This was before Ross Cortese, before the Spanish, before the Mexican. This tree was here. And not only was it this old, but it is thriving because of its adjacency to the creek. It has a perpetual use and abundance of water. And look what happens in this year of the drought when there is plenty of water, because it really makes all the difference in something thriving.
Yeah. I've heard that a sycamore tree will suck up as much as 18 gallons of water a day. Wow. I mean, look at how it has to transport the water.
And how high.
Yeah.
And the density of the bark and the branches and the everything. It's just a phenomenal wonder.
I didn't expect in Laguna Woods I would see this bit of nature. I think it's a nice way to end the show. So we hope you enjoyed our look at our own village, the history, and the nature.
And I encourage you to come down and hug the tree, because whatever it's got, you want. So hurry down to Aliso Creek. We hope you enjoyed today's show with our trip to the past, our trip through history. We hope you enjoyed our trip. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Laguna Woods Village is built on a portion of the open range land from one of the old Spanish land grants, known as the Moulton Ranch. The Rossmore Corporation began development of what was to become the most successful retirement community in the nation. New homes were set on rolling hills surrounded by windswept fields of barley and beans, where meandering sheep and cattle lazily grazed. 10 families took possession of their manors on September 10, 1964. They were welcomed cordially at the gatehouse and at the housing site, where friendly move-in hostesses greeted them with donuts and coffee in the laundry room. A story in Practical Builders magazine in May 1966 said, "There are virtually no constructions or living facilities that cannot be found elsewhere, but nowhere else will you find them all together and done so well. The concentration is not on housing, it is on people." Within days, families were greeting each other by first names, and soon, instant neighbors became a familiar term. At the end of 1965, 16 months after the first move-ins, there were 379 buildings and over 5,000 residents. A very small country store on El Toro Road was ill-equipped to handle the additional business, thus a new business community began to take shape. Clusters of neighborhoods settled on green lawns planted with varieties of shrubs and trees, showing the promise of the garden-like community to be enjoyed in the years ahead. 50 years later, Laguna Woods Village is a thriving community of 18,000 residents. Laguna Woods Village is not just a place to live. It is a lifestyle opportunity, an ideal environment for those transitioning from careers and work to active retirement. Laguna Woods Village looks forward to many more years of resort living, California style, by continually upgrading and looking toward the future. Thank you to the men and women who have shaped this community into the world-class lifestyle destination it is today. Please visit us at lagunawoodsvillage.com for more information.
Hope you enjoyed it. But better yet, we'd rather see you in person at Clubhouse 5. And better yet, we would love to have you become a member. Check our website for all the details of the great shows, the great trips. And when you realize that membership only costs $30 for the entire year, it is the best deal in the village. $30 gets you into all the events. And then it gets you a discount on our day trips. Who does that? We do. Take care. Bye-bye. See you next time.